Let's talk about the 7 hidden signs that your nervous system is probably dysregulated even if you feel completely fine. And this video is especially for you if you wake up every single morning and immediately start rushing, if your schedule is overpacked, if you're moving fast from the moment that your eyes open, and you're so disconnected from yourself that you just feel like you're just living through the motions. Basically living life completely on autopilot. Because here's what most people don't always realize. A dysregulated nervous system doesn't always look like a breakdown. Sometimes it looks like exactly what your life is like right now. So I'm going to walk you through the 7 hidden signs that indicates your nervous system is crying out for help, even if you feel totally fine. Sign number 1, this is probably the one that I have struggled with so much, and I see it very commonly in my practice now as a naturopathic doctor. So I've worked with over thousands of patients in my practice. So I can definitely tell you some signs and patterns that I see over and over and over again. So I know sometimes it might seem like you are the only one that's dysregulated, you are the only one that's experiencing this, and I can promise you, you are not the only one that's going through this because I've just seen these signs so many times. So sign number 1 is that you feel really tired, but you can't rest, even if you have time to rest, because then you just end up feeling guilty for resting. This is a really toxic one because what has happened is that you have taught your nervous system the only way for you to feel worthy is if you're productive. And if you're not productive, then it means you're not worthy and valuable. So what starts to happen is if you try to rest, and even if you give yourself time to rest, you just feel so guilty. And there's that voice in your head that just comes up again saying, what are you doing, Jessica? What are you doing? Like, you need to get up and you need to go and you need to be doing this and doing that and doing this. Like, how dare you sit down and rest for like 10 minutes? You are not allowed to do this because of the conditioning that you have put yourself through for so many years. And when you try to do anything different, it doesn't mean that you're not someone who can rest. It just means that you've conditioned your brain and body to be a certain way. So when you do something different that your body and brain aren't conditioned for, it feels like you are a horrible person. It feels like you just can't. The guilt comes up because your brain and body are fighting against that and bringing you back to the conditioning that it's known the most, which is in order to be valuable, to be worthy, we must be productive. I'd honestly be lying to you if I said that this isn't something that I am still working on learning how to uncondition and really relearn. And what we need to understand is that we live in a society and a world where like the hustle culture is so prominent, where our jobs want us to work more and more, where our customers can sometimes be over demanding. And so we are just living in a day and a world where our expectations sometimes outside of us are so high that we feel like the only way to meet them is that we must be productive. But it's a very toxic cycle because we know that if our nervous system wants to feel nourished and supported, if our nervous system wants to reset itself, we have to give it rest. We have to give it downtime. You can't reset your brain and body if there's no downtime that's ever given to it. If you're constantly in that overstimulated, overworking state. What I always tell my patients is that no one is giving you a trophy at the end of your life to tell you, good job for doing the most. No one's going to do that for you. So it's just like, why? Why are we doing the most? Because let's be honest, when you do the most for other people, you get disappointed most of the time because nobody really reciprocates that energy, right? And I'm only speaking from personal experience. This is a very important one and big one for you to sit down and reflect with. And how do you rewire? The simplest step is that you got to rewire the conditioning. You got to rest enough time so that your brain and body are like, rest is normal, rest is okay. And that's the same relearning that I had to do for myself. And yes, sometimes I still feel guilty, but I still give myself the rest anyways. What I always want you to remember about guilt is that guilt is not a reflection of your character, it's a reflection of your conditioning, okay? Guilt doesn't mean anything about who you are, it's simply just a reflection of the conditioning that you put yourself through. Sign number 2 is that you're either wired at night and you can't sleep, or you do end up sleeping, but then you wake up feeling extremely exhausted. Very common one I see. I think like sleep issues are one of the biggest issues that I see in my practice because I focus on nervous system dysregulation in my practice. And when our nervous system is extremely dysregulated, you're usually in that sympathetic stress state. That's what we mean, and what I mean at least when I'm saying being dysregulated. And when we're in that sympathetic stress state, your body is essentially getting the signal that it's not safe enough to sleep, That's why your body ends up being in this extremely stressed out state. So, what we want to try to do is we want to rewire that conditioning. We want to start teaching your body that it is safe to sleep and that you're not fighting a saber-toothed tiger in bed. You are simply just trying to go to sleep. When we learn how to regulate and support our nervous system state, one of the most beautiful changes you're going to experience in your life is a deep, rested state of sleep. And that is the best part about all of this. In my life now, I've created an amazing bedtime routine, and I'm able to get into such a deep, restful state of sleeps that when I don't do that, I notice the difference like right away. Like yesterday, for example, it happens rarely to me, but still happens sometimes, and that's okay too. But last night, for example, I ate a little bit too close to bedtime. So I go to bed quite early because I wake up early. I like to wake up around 4:35, go to the gym. And so that means that I'm pretty much going into bed around like 8:30. And so yesterday I had my dinner a little bit late. I had it around 7:30. I like to have it much earlier, but because it was a weekend, my timing was a little bit off. And I noticed that difference in my quality of sleep because I ate so close to bedtime. Your nervous system is closely linked to your diet too, right? And the foods that you eat, because the foods that you eat can either be stimulating your nervous system or they can be nourishing it and relaxing it. And that on its own can make a difference in your body's health. If you are having sleep issues and you haven't considered the nervous system route, consider it. I have seen so many patients sleep shift like just really quickly and really fast when their nervous system state is well supported. Sign number 3 is that small things set you off and you just snap at especially your loved ones. This one can be a really frustrating cycle to be stuck in. I remember, when I was in a dysregulated space, this was something that I really struggled with. And it's awful because then you feel so guilty because you know exactly how you should be showing up with the people around you, to treat them, talk to them nicely and kindly and treat them with respect. But sometimes when our nervous system is dysregulated, you just snap. It almost feels like you have no control of your reaction, and that is the worst part of it. The reason why it feels like this for you is because you're on autopilot. You're in the stressed out nervous system state, and when you're in that stressed out nervous system state, you are doing things that are automatic to you. However, when you switch your nervous system state into the calm state, you get out of autopilot mode and into conscious mode. And when you're in the conscious mode, you can be way more mindful about how you react to things. This was like a big shift that I noticed in my life when my nervous system started to get more regulated is I just had way more control over my reactions and especially how I was reacting to people around me. Sign number 4 is that even the smallest decisions overwhelm you and it feels like you're really indecisive and can't make any decisions for yourself. The truth here is that your nervous system is extremely dysregulated and your brain and body are at such a big capacity or such a, maxed out, capacity is what I mean to say, is that you just can't make the smallest decisions. Like anything that is just requiring your brain power or for you to think a little extra, it just feels really overwhelming. Whether it's, I don't know, deciding what day to get a haircut or deciding what to even order at a restaurant, it just feels like you can't make any of these decisions and they just feel so overwhelming and exhausted for you. And that's again because you've maxed out your capacity. Your nervous system is just so dysregulated that making these decisions, it just feels like you just can't do it. And this is where, again, it can be so easy for us to hate on ourselves and put ourselves down and make ourselves feel like there's something wrong with me. Like, why can't I do this? But I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with you. It's probably that you're dysregulated. When you regulate yourself, the best part about it is that if your capacity feels like this right now, your capacity increases. And the more regulated you become, the more your capacity increases to be able to handle stressors, to be able to handle making big, difficult decisions around yourself. So again, just always start with nervous system regulation. Clearly, that is the theme of this video. Sign number 5 is that you can't slow down when you want to, and the idea of doing nothing terrifies you. So this goes back to that earlier point about how we have ingrained productivity within ourselves in order to feel worthy, in order to feel valuable, and we think that this is really the only way that we can essentially feel good about ourselves. One of the questions that I ask all of my new patients that come into my practice is I ask them, how do you cope with your nervous system being dysregulated? And do you give yourself any space to do nothing during the day? And literally everyone goes like, no, like doing nothing, like what? I don't have time for that. I can't do that. Or I also hear that Doing nothing terrifies me because that's when I experience all of my thoughts and my emotions. And I'm like, yeah, that is the point. That's the point. I think this is why I just love meditation so much. Meditation was one of the first tools that I used to start regulating my nervous system state. And I love it for this very reason because it forces you to sit and be with yourself and face everything inside of you. So many of us have conditioned ourselves to run away from everything outside of us. When we experience a distressing thought, we'll watch a TV show, we'll scroll on TikTok, we'll eat a bag of chips. We will do anything but actually face what is showing up inside of us. And the more you run away from everything that's inside of you, the more that you're teaching your brain and body that you can't face your thoughts and your emotions, that they're too scary, and you're actually creating a weaker version of yourself long term. That's why it's so important to give yourself space to do nothing. A simple thing that you can start doing. So, the way that I started to expose myself to doing nothing throughout the day was when I had, for example, a few minutes in between clients, instead of reaching for my phone or trying to get like some work done or sending an email, I would just sit. I would just sit and be. And I would allow myself to experience the discomfort of sitting and being instead of feeling like I always needed to do something in this moment. And the more times you expose yourself to that, the easier and easier it gets for you to essentially face nothingness and realizing that yes, you can give yourself moments of nothingness and you're going to be okay. And if anything, what starts to happen is that when you expose yourself to this, these moments of nothingness is when your creativity can thrive. It's where ideas can boom and come out of. It's really the moments when you're not doing anything, when your brain and body aren't processing things, that your nervous system actually gets a true chance to reset itself, to nourish itself, to help itself feel better and to restore its energy. So very important to give yourself moments of this. Sign number 6 is that you're always looking for things outside of you to cope with. So this could look like you are reaching for the Netflix, you're scrolling on social media, you're turning towards alcohol, you're turning towards food to cope with your dysregulated nervous system state. And what I always want you to understand is that when you're in a dysregulated nervous system state, your brain and your body are always going to look for the easiest things to cope with. We live in a society and world where these cheap, easy dopamine hits are readily available everywhere. So yes, a little bit it does look like you're constantly swimming upstream, but this is why having a regulated nervous system is that much more important. Because all the things that you're looking to decompress yourself are actually frying your brain more, are actually hurting your nervous system more, and they're not giving your nervous system what it actually needs in these moments to feel better. Your nervous system doesn't need another dopamine hit. It needs you to slow down. It needs you to give it silence. It needs you to give it stillness. It needs you to give it a moment of not processing anything for a second, to just be. That's what your nervous system actually needs, not these cheap, easy dopamine hits. And that's what I want you to start seeing these things as. And this is where, too, the more regulated that you become, so much of in my practice, I've also supported patients with weight loss, with managing their eating habits. And I've seen time and time again that the patients who are the most regulated, they lose weight the most. They get into the best shape faster than my other patients because they're now getting out of autopilot and into a conscious state of being. And it's in this conscious state of being that you can make better choices about yourself. And most importantly, the version of yourself that you want to show up as in this moment. And the last sign, and I think that this is honestly sometimes the saddest one, and I have been at a place in my life where I can relate to this sign so much, which is when I was dysregulated the most, is that you have just completely lost touch with yourself, with your life. And it just feels like the zest of life is gone. You're kind of just like confused as to what is your life? What are you working towards? What are you doing? And it just feels like you're living in this motion it's just like this like simulator all day long, right? Where you're just getting up, going to work, coming back, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And really, the reason that you've lost touch with the things you enjoy most in life is because you've lost touch with yourself. That's what I want you to understand. When we're the most dysregulated, again, we're running on that autopilot. We're so in our minds and we're not in our bodies. And we're not in our bodies, we're not present. And if you want to enjoy your life more, you need to learn how to cultivate presence and do things on an everyday basis to ground you and to bring you back into the present moment. The more present that you can be, the better your nervous system is going to be at the end of the day. Like, truly, if all you practice in your life is just presence and just bringing yourself back to the present moment over and over and over again, you will never have to deal with nervous system dysregulation. And the worst part about it is that when we're just stuck in our head and in that dysregulated nervous system state, is we've lost touch with our true essence and who we are. And the more that we can sit in ourselves, ground in ourselves, and tune into ourselves, we'll get more clarity on that. And this is how you bring that enjoyment, that joy back into life again, is by connecting with who you are. Because all the answers that you need right now, they're all within you. You have all of the answers that you need within you right now in this very moment. I hope that this was helpful. And if you related to any of these signs, take it as a sign that your nervous system is dysregulated and you need to start doing the work now to support yourself.